네, 꾸준한 영어 테드쌤입니다. 토요일, 일요일에 제가 챕터 1부터 끝까지 이제 챕터 1만 하기가 조금 지겨워가지고 한번 다 쉬지 않고 읽었었는데 녹음한 동영상이 다 사라져 버렸습니다. 뭐 여러 가지 이유를 찾아냈는데 아주 저의 기계 조작의 미숙 때문에 일어난 사건이고, 그래서 토요일 일요일에는 제가 영상을 올릴 수가 없었습니다. 많이 아쉽기도 하고 황당하기도 한데, 그래도 뭐 일어난 일은 일어난 일이니까 오늘부터 다시 이제 또 열심히 올리도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 시작하기 전에 이제 그래 해보자 뭐 이런 표현들 있잖아요. 영어로 이제 좋아 한번 해보자, 영어로 어떻게 표현할까요? Okay, let's do it. Okay, I agree with you. 보통 이제 그래 동의해, 네 말에 찬성해, 이제 이렇게 얘기하는데, 그거보다는 훨씬 이제 조금 미국식 표현으로 You've got a deal. You've got a deal. You got yourself a deal. 뭐 이런 표현들이 있어요. 그래서 뭐 이 제안을 한다 이거죠. 조금 그 친구한테 This Saturday we have to play our band at the festival, so can you play a drum for us? 이제 뭐 이렇게 이제 뭐 밴드 활동해야 되는데 드럼 주자가 없으니까 네가 드럼 좀 쳐줄래? 그럴 때 이제 뭐 이렇게 제안을 한 거죠. 근데 그래 그렇게 할까? 좋아 뭐 이렇게 할 때는 Okay, you've got a deal. 이렇게 아니면 You got a deal. 뭐 이런 식으로 표현들을 많이 하거든요. 그래서 그냥 단순히 I agree with you, 뭐 okay, 뭐 이런 것도 좋지만 이런 표현들 You've got a deal 같은 표현도 한번 배워두시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 이제 낭독에 들어가도록 하겠습니다. Vernacular Chapter 1 The Arrival. I shall never forget the first time I laid these now tired eyes on our visitor. I'd been left home by the family with the admonition to take care of the house until they return. That's something they always say to me when they go out. Take care of the house, Harold. You are the watchdog. I think it's their way of making up for not taking me with them, as if I wanted to go anyway. You can't lie down at the movies and still see the screen. And the people think you're being impolite if you fall asleep or start to snore or scratch yourself in public. No thank you. I'd rather be stretched out on my favorite rug in front of a nice whistling radiator. But I digress. I was talking about the first night. Well, it was cold. The rain was pelting the windows. The wind was howling, and it felt pretty good to be indoors. I was lying on the rug with my head on my paws, just staring absently at the front door. My friend Chatter was curled up on the brown velvet armchair, which years ago he's staked out as his own. And I chuckled to myself, picturing the scene tomorrow. Next to grasshoppers, there is nothing that threatens Chatter more than the vacuum cleaner. In the midst of this reverie, I heard the car pull into the driveway. I didn't even bother to get up to see who it was. I knew it must be my family, the Monroes. Since just about the time movie to be over, the front door flew open. There they stood on the front door. There was a flash of lightning, and in its glare, I noticed that Mr. Monroe was carrying a little bundle. A bundle with tiny glistening eyes. Pete and Toby bounded into the room, both talking at the top of their lungs. Toby shouted, "Put him over here, Dad!" "Take your boots off, you're soaking wet," replied his mother, somewhat calmly, I thought, under the circumstances. "But Mom, what about..." "First, stop dripping on the carpet." Would somebody like to take this? Asked Mr. Mono, indicating the bundle with the eyes. I'd like to remove my coat. I will, Pete yelled. No, I will, said Toby. I found them. You're dropping. Are not, you too. Mom, Pete punched me. I'll take him, said Mrs. Mono. Take off your coat this minute. But she became so involved in helping the boys out of their coats, she didn't take him at all. My tranquil evening had been destroyed, and no one even said hello to me. I whimpered to remind them that I was there. Harold, cried Toby, guess what happened to me? And then all over again, everyone started talking at once. At this point, I feel I must explain something. In our family, everyone treats everyone else with great respect for his or her intelligence. That goes for the animals as well as the people. Everything that happens to them is explained to us. It's never been just, goodbye Harold, or use the little box chapter in our house. Oh no, with us it's, hey Harold, Dad got a raise and now we are in a higher tax bracket. Or come sit on the bed chapter and watch this Wild Kingdom show. Maybe you wish your relative. Which shows just how thoughtful they are. But after all, Mr. Mono is a college professor and Mrs. Mono is a lawyer. So we think of it as a rather special household. And we are therefore rather special pets. So it wasn't at all surprising to me. They took the time to explain strange circumstances surrounding the arrival of a little bundle with the glistening eyes now among us. It seems that they had arrived at the theater late, and rather than trip over the feet of the audience already seated, they decided to sit in the last row, which was empty. They tiptoed in and sat down very quietly, and they wouldn't disturb anyone. And suddenly Toby, who's the little one, sprang up from his chair and squealed that he had said something. Mr. Mono told him to stop making a fuss and move to another seat. And in an unusual display of independence, Toby said he wanted to see just what it was he had sat on. An usher came over to their row to shush them, and Mr. Mono borrowed his flashlight. What they found on the Toby's chair was the little blanket bundle that was now sitting on Mr. Mono's lap. They now unwrapped the blanket, and there in center was a tiny black and white rabbit sitting in a shoebox filled with dirt. A piece of paper had been tied in his neck with a ribbon. There were words on the paper, but the Monos were unable to decipher them because they were in a totally unfamiliar language. I moved closer for a better look. Now, most people might call me a mongrel, but I have pretty pensive little lines running through these veins, and Russian found happens to be one of them. Because my family got around a lot, I was able to recognize the language as an obscure dialect of the Carpathian mountain region. Roughly translated, it read, "Take good care of my baby." But I couldn't tell if it was believed from the mother or a piece of man and shit music. We decided that Mr. Mono and the boys would make a house party out of the old curtain and some heavy-duty wire mesh from the garage. For the night, the boys would make a bed for him in the shoebox, and Mr. Mono went to the kitchen to get some milk and lettuce. Mr. Mono sat down and dazed the expression with his eyes, as if he wondering how he became sitting in his own living room with a strange bunny in his lap. I signaled to Chatteron, and two of us casually moseyed over to a corner of the room. We looked at each other. "Well, what do you think?" I asked. "I don't think the rabbits like milk," he answered. Chester and I were unable to continue our conversation because a deafening crash commanded our attention. Pete yelled from the hallway, "Ma, Toby broke the rabbit's house." "I didn't, I just dropped it. People let me carry it." "It's too big. Toby's too little." "I'm not. You're two." "Okay, fellas," Mrs. Mono called out as she entered with the milk and lettuce. "Let's try to get it in here with as little hysteria as possible, please." Chester entered. That lettuce looks repulsive, but there's any milk left. But if there's any milk left, I will get it. At that moment, the crate arrived, barely standing the strain of pulled two directions at once. "Ma, Toby says he's gonna keep the rabbit in his room. That's my favorite. Harold sleeps in his room. Only sometimes I thought, when I know he's gonna get... Toby's a nice kid, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't hurt that he shared his stash with me. It was, after all, one of those late night parties in Toby's room that I first developed my taste for chocolate cake. And Toby, noting my preference, has kept me in chocolate cake ever since. Pete, on the other hand, it doesn't believe in sharing. The only time I tried to sleep on his time, he rolled over on me and pinned me by my ears so that I couldn't move for the rest of the night. And I have cricket in my neck the rest of the days. You can keep smelling all held in your Chester too if you want to, but I'm gonna keep the rabbit in mine, Pete said. Smelly old hell. I would have bitten his ankles, but I knew he hadn't changed his socks for a week. Smelly indeed. Mr. Monroe spoke up. I think the best place for the rabbit is right here in the living room on that table by the window. It's a light there. He will get lots of fresh air. Too bad, Squirt. Okay, said Mrs. Monroe, through clenched teeth. Let's put him to bed and make him comfortable, and then we can all get some sleep. Why? Pete asked. I don't want to go to sleep. Mrs. Monroe smiled a little too sweetly at Pete. He's not drinking his milk. Chester nudged me in the ribs. Didn't I tell you? He asked. Excuse me while I make myself available. Hey, said Toby, we gotta name him. Can't that wait until tomorrow? Asked Mr. Monroe. The boys shouted in unison. No, he has to have a name right now. I have to say I agree with them. It took them 3 days to name me. It was the 3 most anxious days of my life. I couldn't sleep at all, worrying they're really gonna call me Fluffy, as Mrs. Monroe had suggested. Well, all right, sighed Mrs. Monroe. What about? Oh, say, Bun Bun? Uh-oh, there she goes again, I thought. Where does she get them? Yuck, we all said. Well then, how about Floppy? She offered hopefully. Pete looked at his mother and smiled. You never give up, do you, Ma? Meanwhile, Chester, who had also been Fluffy for a short time, was rubbing against Mrs. Monroe's ankles and purring loudly. No, Chester, not now. She's pushing him aside. He wants to help us name him, don't you, Chester? Chester asked, as he scooped him up into his arms. Chester shot me a look. I could tell this was not what he had in mind. Come on, Harold. You've got to help with the name too. I joined the family and serious thinking began. We all peeled into the box. It was the first time I have really seen him. So, this is a rabbit, I thought. He sort of looks like a Chester, only he got longer ears and a shorter tail, and a motor in his nose. Well, said Pete after a moment, since we found him at a movie, why don't we call him Mr. Johnson? There was a moment of silence. Who's Mr. Johnson? Asked Toby. The guy who owns the movie theater, Pete answered. No one seemed to like the idea. How about the prince? Said Mrs. Monroe. Dad, said Toby, are you kidding? Well, I had a dog named Prince once, he replied lamely. Prince, I thought. That's a silly name for a dog. We found him at a Dracula movie. Let's call him Dracula, Toby said. That's a stupid name, said Pete. No, it's not. And anyway, I found him, so I should get to name him. Mom, you're not gonna... Mr. Monroe looked and wondered at Pete. Please, Mom, please, Dad, let's name him Dracula, cried Toby. Toby, please, please, please. And with it, please, he squeezed the Chester a little harder. Mrs. Monroe picked up the bowl of milk and moved toward the kitchen. Chester followed her every movement with his eyes, which now seemed to be popping out of his head. When she reached the kitchen door, she turned back and said, Let's not have any more argument. We'll compromise. He's a bunny, and we found him at a Dracula movie, so we'll call him Bunnicula. Bunnicula. That should make everybody happy, including me. What about me? Muttered Chester. I won't be happy until she puts down that milk. Well, guys, is that okay with you? She asked. Toby and Peter looked at one another, and then a rabbit. A smile grew on Toby's face. Yeah, Ma, I think that name is just right. Pete shrugged. It's okay, but I get to feed him. Okay, I'm going to put the milk back in the fridge. Maybe he will drink it tomorrow. What about Chester? Dropping the prank cat to the floor. Maybe he would like it. Chester made a beeline for Mrs. Munro and looked up at her plaintively. Oh, Chester doesn't want any more milk, do you, Chester? You've already had your milk today. She reached down, patted Chester on his head, and walked into the kitchen. Chester didn't move. Okay, bedtime, said Mrs. Munro. Good night, Bunnicula, Toby said. Good night, Count Bunnicula, Pete said sarcastically, in what I took to be his attempt at a Transylvanian accent. I may be wrong, but I thought I saw a particular movement from the cage. Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. I licked Toby good night. Good night, Smelly Harold. Good night, dumb Chester. I drooled on my Pete's foot. Mom, Harold drooled on my foot. Good night, Pete, Mrs. Munro said a great finality as she came back into the living room, and then more calmly. Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. Mr. and Mrs. Munro went up the stairs together. You know, dear, Mr. Munro said, that was very clever, but Nicola, I could never have thought of a name like that. Although I don't know Robert, she smiled as she put her arm through his. I think a prince is a lovely name too. The room was quiet. Chester was still sitting by the closed kitchen door in a state of shock. Slowly he turned to me. I wish they had named him Fluffy, was all he said. 한번 읽겠습니다. 버니큘라, 두 번째 읽겠습니다. Chapter 1, The Arrival. I shall never forget the first time I laid these now tired eyes on our Peter. I'd been left home by the family with the admonition to take care of the house until they return. That's something they always say to me when they go out. Take care of the house, Harold. You are the watchdog. I think it's their way of making up for not taking me with them, as if I wanted to go anyway. You can't lie down on the movies and still see the screen, and the people think you're being impolite if you fall asleep or start to snore, or scratch yourself in public. No, thank you. I'd rather be stretched out on my favorite rug in front of a nice whistling radiator. But I digress. I wasn't talking about that first night. Well, it was cold. The rain was pelting the windows. The wind was howling, and it felt pretty good to be indoors. I was lying on the rug with my head on my paws, just staring absently at the front door. My friend Chester was curled up on the brown velvet armchair, which years ago he's taken out as his own. I saw that once again. He covered the whole seat with his cat hair, and I chuckled to myself, picturing the scene tomorrow. Next to grasshoppers, there is nothing that frightens Chester more than the vacuum cleaner. In the midst of this reverie, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I didn't even bother to get up and see who it was. I knew it had to be my family, the Munros. Since it's just about time to be movie to be over. The front door flew open. There they stood on the doorway, Toby and Pete and Mom and Dad Munro. There was a flash of lightning, and in each glare, I noticed that Mr. Munro was carrying a little bundle, with tiny glistening eyes. Pete and Toby bounded into the room, both talking at the top of their lungs. Toby shouted, "Put him over here, Dad!" "Take your boots off, you're soaking wet," replied his mother, somewhat calmly, I thought, under the circumstances. "But Mom, what about?" "First, stop your peeing on the carpet." Would somebody like to take this?" asked Mr. Munro, indicating the bundle with the eyes. "I'd like to remove my coat." "I will," Pete yelled. "No, I will," said Toby. "I found him. You dropped him. I will not. You will too." "Mom, Pete punched me." "I will take him," said Mrs. Munro. "Take off your coat this minute." But she became so involved in helping the boys out of their coats, and she didn't take him at all. My tranquil evening had been destroyed, and no one even said hello to me. I whimpered to remind them that I was there. "Harold!" cried Toby. "Guess what happened to me?" And then all over again, everyone started talking at once. At this point, I feel I must explain something. In our family, everyone treats everyone else with greater respect for his or her intelligence. That goes for the animals as well as the people. Everything that happens to them is explained to us. It's never been just, "Goodbye, Harold," or "Use the little box chatter in our house." Oh no, with us it's, "Hey Harold, Dad got a raise and now we are in a higher tax bracket." Or "Come sit on the bed, chatter, and watch this Wild Kingdom show. Maybe you will see a relative." Which shows just how thoughtful they are. But after all, Mr. Monroe is a college professor and Mrs. Monroe is a lawyer. So we think of it as a rather special household. And we are therefore a rather special house pet. So it wasn't at all surprising to me they took the time to explain the strange circumstances surrounding the arrival of the little bundle with the glistening eyes now among us. It seems that they had arrived at the theater late, and rather than trip over the pit of this audience already seated, they decided to sit in the last row, which was empty. They tiptoed in and sat down very quietly so they wouldn't disturb anyone. Suddenly, Toby, who's the little one, sprang up from his chair and squealed that he had sat on something. Mr. Monroe said, in an unusual display of independence, Toby said he wanted to see just what it was he had sat on. An usher came over to their row to shush them, and Mr. Monroe borrowed his flashlight. What they found under Toby's chair was the little blanket bundle that was now sitting on Mr. Monroe's lap. They now unwrapped the blanket, and there in the center was a tiny black and white rabbit, sitting in a shoebox filled with dirt. A piece of paper had been tied into his neck with a ribbon. There were words on the paper, but the Monroes were unable to decipher them because they were in a totally unfamiliar language. I moved closer for a better look. Now most people might call me a mongrel, but I have some pretty fast bloodlines through these veins, and the Russian wolfhound happens to be one of them. Because my family got around a lot, I was able to recognize the language as an obscure dialect of the Carpathian Mountain region. Roughly translated, it read, "Take good care of my baby." But I couldn't tell if it was a note from the believed mother or a piece of Romanian sheet music. The little guy was shivering from fear and cold. It was decided Mr. Monroe and boys would make a house for him out of an old crate and some heavy-duty wire mesh from garage. For the night, the boys would make the bed for him in the shoebox. Toby and Peter ran outside to find the crate, and Mrs. Monroe went to the kitchen to get some milk and lettuce. Mr. Monroe sat down, a dazed expression in his eyes, as if he were wondering how he came to be sitting in his own living room in a red raincoat with a strange bunny on his lap. I signaled to Chatter, and the two of us casually moseyed over to a corner of the room. We looked at each other. "Well, what do you think?" I asked. "I don't think rabbits like milk," he answered. Chatter and I were unable to continue our conversation because of happening Croatia commanded our attention. "Pete, I just dropped it. People want me to carry it. It's too big, Toby's too little." "I'm not, you are too." "Okay, fellas," Mrs. Monroe called out as she entered with the milk and lettuce. "Let's try to get it in here with as little hysteria as possible, please." Chatter turned to me and said under his breath, "That lettuce looked repulsive, but if any milk left, I get it." I certainly wasn't going to argue with him. I'm a waterman myself. At that moment, the crate arrived, barely standing in strain of being pulled two directions at once. Toby said Harold sleeps in his room. Only sometimes I thought that when I know he's got a leftover ham sandwich in his drawer. Toby's a nice kid, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't hurt if he shared his stash with me. It was, after all, one of late night parties in Toby's room that first developed my taste of chocolate cake. Toby, noting my preference and kept me in chocolate cake ever since. Pete, on the other hand, he doesn't believe in sharing. The only time I tried to sleep on his bed, he rolled over on me and pinned me by my ears, and I found him. You sat on him, you mean? I found him. He's sleeping in my room. You can keep Smelly Old Harold in your room and Chester too if you want to. But I'm gonna keep the rabbit in mine, Pete said. Smelly Old Harold. I would have bitten his ankles, but I knew he had changed the socks for a week. Smelly indeed. Mr. Monroe spoke up. I think the best place for the rabbit is right here in the living room on that table by the window. It's a light there. He got lots of fresh air. He'll be able to see the rabbit better. Too bad, Squirt. Okay, said Mrs. Monroe through clenched teeth. Let's put him to bed and make him comfortable, and then we can all get some sleep. Why? Peter asked. I don't want to go to sleep. Mrs. Monroe smiled a little sweetly at Pete. Look, Ma, said Toby. He's not drinking his milk. Chatter nudged me in the ribs. Didn't I tell you? Excuse me while I make supper available. Hey, said Toby, we gotta name him. Can't that wait until tomorrow? Asked Mr. Monroe. The boys shouted in unison. No, he has to have a name right now, I have to say. I agree with them. It took them 3 days to name me, and those were the 3 most anxious days of my life. I couldn't sleep at all, worrying that they're really gonna call me a Fluffy, as Mrs. Monroe had suggested. Well, all right, said Mrs. Monroe. What about, say, Bun Bun? Uh-oh, there she goes again, I thought. Where does she get them? Yuck, we all said. Well then, how about Fluffy, she offered hopefully. Peter looked at his mother and smiled. You never give up, do you, Ma? Meanwhile, Chatter, who had also been named Fluffy for a short time, was rubbing against Mrs. Monroe's ankles, purring loudly. No, Chatter, not now, she said, pushing him aside. He wants to help us name him, don't you, Chatter? Toby asked, as he scooped him up into his arms. Chatter shot me a look. I could tell this was not what he had in mind. Come on, Harold, Toby called. You've got to help me with the name him, too. I joined the family. Serious thinking began. We all peeled into the box. It was the first time I had really seen him. So, this is a rabbit, I thought. His soul looks like a Chester, only he's got longer ears and shorter tail and a motor in his nose. Well, said Pete after a moment, since we found him at a movie, why don't we call him Mr. Johnson? There was a moment of silence. Who's Mr. Johnson? Asked Toby. The guy who owns the movie theater, Peter answered. No one seemed to like the idea. How about the prince? Said Mrs. Monroe. Mr. Monroe said, Are you kidding? Oh, no, I had a dog named Prince once, he replied lamely. Prince, I thought, that's a silly name for a dog. We found him at a Dracula movie, let's call him Dracula, Toby said. That's a stupid name, said Pete. No, it's not. And anyway, I found him, so I should get to name him. Mom, you're not gonna let him name him, are you? That's your favorite, and I'll be traumatized if you do. Mrs. Monroe looked in wonder at Pete. Please, Mom, please, Dad, let's name him Dracula, cried Toby. Please, please, please. And with each plead, he squeezed the chest a little harder. Mrs. Monroe picked up the bowl of milk and moved toward the kitchen. Chatter followed her every movement with his eyes, and which now seemed to be popping out of his head. When she reached the kitchen door, she turned back and said, Let's not have any more argument. We will compromise. He's a bunny, and we found him at a Dracula movie, so we'll call him Bunnicula. Bunnicula? That should make everybody happy, including me. What about me? Muttered Chatter. I won't be happy until she puts down that milk. Well, guys, is that okay with you? She asked. Toby and Peter looked at one another, and then at Rabbit. A smile grew on Toby's face. Yeah, Ma, I think that name is just right. Pete shrugged. It's okay, but I get to fit in. Okay, I'm gonna put the milk back in the fridge. Maybe he will drink it tomorrow. What about Cheddar? Dropping the bread to get to the floor. Maybe he would like it. Cheddar made a beeline for Mrs. Monroe and looked up at her plaintively. Oh, Cheddar, he doesn't want any more milk. Do you, Cheddar? You've already had your milk today. She reached down, patted Cheddar's head. Okay, bedtime, said Mr. Monroe. Good night, Bunnicula, Toby said. Good night, Count Bunnicula, Pete said sarcastically, in what I took to be his attempt at a Transylvanian accent. I may be wrong, but I thought I saw a particular movement from the cage. Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. I licked Toby good night. Good night, Smiley, Harold. Good night, dumb Chester. I drilled on Pete's foot. Mom, Harold drilled on my foot. Good night, Pete, Mrs. Monroe said with great finality as she came back into the living room, and then more calmly, Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. Mr. and Mrs. Monroe went up the stairs together. You know, dear, Mr. Monroe said, that was very clever, but Nicola, I could never have thought of a name like that. Oh, I don't know, Robert, she smiled as she put her arm through his. I think Prince is a lovely name, too. The room was quiet. Chester was standing by the kitchen door in the state of shock. Slowly he turned to me. I wish they had named him Fluffy, was all he said. 네, 여기까지 하도록 하겠습니다.